Quality of life crime continues to plague the people of Baltimore. We pressed the mayor on what he's doing to fix the issue.
Are you going to change the way that you address quality of life crimes, given this continues to be a major problem for people?
Plus, one resident says police did nothing after seeing porch pirates in his neighborhood.
There's nothing they can do. And I'm like, what?
Why some say crime in their community is being ignored. Then, a bill supporting school choice, how it would give students in failing schools a way out.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Breaking news as we come on the air, a live look at Loyola University Maryland campus as a shelter-in-place order was just lifted. Classes were canceled, though, and students were told to get to a safe place due to a bomb threat earlier today. Baltimore police determined the threat was not credible, and so the shelter-in-place order was just lifted.
And we're following three big stories right now in a city in crisis. Fox 45 News is tracking the latest from the trial of the murder of Baltimore police officer Kiana Holly. She was ambushed and shot on patrol in 2021.
But first, car thefts, vandalism, and theft, quality of life crime, is plaguing Baltimore. We are pressing city leaders and Baltimore police on the response to the crime crisis. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Our team coverage starts right now with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost. She joins us live after questioning the mayor on what he's doing to address the rise in quality of life crimes. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, the mayor says that he's been talking about this problem long before anyone else really started paying attention. But the reality is no one seems to be immune from potentially becoming a victim of one of these quality of life crimes. Over the weekend, we just saw Sheila Dixon talk about the fact that she had her garage broken into and a bike was stolen. And she joins the list of other people in Baltimore City who continue to become victims of property crimes or other similar quality of life incidents. And Dixon joins the list of others who are looking to unseat current Mayor Brandon Scott. And today we question the mayor about what he's doing to address this concern, especially as we continue to see more and more people fall victim. Are you going to change the way that you address quality of life crimes, given this continues to be a major problem for people?
We're going to continue to focus on that. We, as an administration, here, as the police department in Baltimore City, have always been focused on quality of life crimes.
Now, the mayor went on to continue to tout his effort in calling out other areas of the criminal justice system that he believes are not working and helping control this problem. But again, we pressed him for solutions, especially as lawmakers in Annapolis are working to address some of these same problems. Do you think that it's your responsibility, though, as the mayor of the major city in the state, to be more vocal about what is and is not working at the state level?
I don't think I can be more vocal. Before anybody was paying attention to things like home monitoring, I was saying it.
Now, coming up tonight at 5, we'll have more from the mayor and take a deeper dive into the data that we're seeing from Baltimore police, as well as hear from a council member and their response and reaction to the current administration's work to address some of these quality of life crimes. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, Fox 45 News obtained security footage of another robbery this weekend in the Riverside neighborhood. In the video, you can see a female victim approached by 3 suspects in a white BMW SUV. They threaten her, take her keys and her phone, then demand she give them the passcode before fleeing in that SUV. Police believe the vehicle has been used in a number of recent robberies in the area. The string of crime has neighbors on edge.
Well, it's scary. I walk around a lot. I walk everywhere. That's why you live here, so you can walk to all the places around here. They come up in a car and there's 4 or 5 of them.
It doesn't make anybody feel good, right? To see someone walking down the street and see that they may or may not match a description of people that are going around committing crime.
Well, car thefts continue to be rising at an alarming rate. Baltimore is on pace to break the number of car thefts we saw last year. As of February 17th, 1,071 cars have been stolen in the city. That's an 82% increase from 2023. In a Fox 45 public safety town hall last week, City State's Attorney Ivan Bates stressed the domino effect that a single car theft has on a Baltimore family.
What about the individual that lives in that neighborhood and they're struggling? and they work a 9-to-5 job. They make $15 an hour. They have to save their money for that vehicle, and that vehicle's stolen. They have to pay their deductible in terms of insurance. They have to take off from work. They're not getting paid. Maybe they take their child across Baltimore City to school. Now that child has to catch a bus. That child stealing that vehicle impacts our families greatly, and that's something that people do not always see. I think one of the things, we're so focused on our children, which is very important, but we also have to give focus on the victims.
And it is not just car thefts. Residents living near Patterson Park are reporting a surge of stolen packages. One neighbor even claims to have caught a pair of thieves in action, but the response from police wasn't what he was expecting. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor is live with the very latest. Rebecca.
Yeah, Mary, while it makes sense that violent crimes such as homicides and shootings take priority for police as lower level crimes, which affect more people more often, continue to surge, some residents tell me they're still struggling to stay safe in Baltimore City. In the back patio of Larry Houtz's Baltimore row home, high fences protect his pond, the bird he feeds, and his sense of security.
We built this house like this as a sanctuary for us from the city.
A calmness that leaves him every time he leaves his front door.
Every day I come out to my car and I'm looking, worried that my window's going to be busted out.
For the past 25 years, Larry says living just a few blocks down from the scenic walking trails inside Patterson Park provided a second oasis. But now,
in the last 2 or 3 years, it has just gone downhill immensely.
A rise in property crimes.
Heck, the house right there that with the stucco there was broken into.
Most notably, soaring car thefts and break-ins.
By the Ukrainian church, dozens of cars broken into, windows smashed out.
Shattering his sense of security and trust in Baltimore's police department to protect and serve.
It's out of control.
Over the weekend, Larry witnessing what he says was two men sorting through about a dozen stolen packages along Patterson Avenue.
Holding stuff up, looking at it, putting it in another bag, putting the empty packages in a different bag.
About 20 to 30 minutes after reporting the incident to BPD,
they're still in the alley rifling through stuff. They had a lot of stuff.
Larry claims an officer finally arrived.
He says, "How do you know the packages were stolen?" I said, "Amazon packages?" And I said, "There they go, they're right there."
According to Larry, the officer never approaching the men.
Lackadaisy, whatever.
Despite empty packaging still littering the ground and this photo Larry snapped of the alleged suspects in action.
So this morning, I called Internal Affairs to find out, what's going on here. Internal Affairs told me, unless the police see them steal the item, there's nothing they can do. And I'm like, what?
Other area residents raising similar concerns over the car crimes.
I've had friends that have had their cars broken into, and I've heard from people that cops are barely pursuing it.
Many claiming unless a crime was clearly caught on camera, police not responding in person to file a report or investigate.
My friend was definitely pretty frustrated because, he feels like, he's not being protected in this city.
People just feel like they're being ignored and the police department doesn't care.
Former Deputy Commissioner Jason Johnson.
And that's a problem, and that flies right in the face of community policing, which of course is what everyone wants.
Saying an inadequate response from BPD likely the result of inadequate staffing.
Fortunately, right now, the police department, they just simply don't have the resources necessary to commit time and effort to, property crimes, quality of life crimes.
With this city currently more than 500 officers short.
I hear it all the time about this crime being committed and this happening to this person and this happening to that person and nothing happening to the criminals.
Larry among those calling on city leaders to enact change.
They know nothing's going to happen to them. Do something.
As he contemplates creating a new safe haven.
We don't want to give it up.
Outside of city lines.
It's sad. It really is sad.
Now, I also reached out to BPD today asking for their response to Larry's claims that an officer didn't properly investigate his report. I also asked, what is their protocol for investigating car thefts and car break-ins? As of news time tonight, though, have not heard back. Reporting live outside of Patterson Park, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust the Scott administration to fight quality of life crime? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
A jury has been seated in the Elliot Knox murder trial. Knox is one of two men charged with murdering Baltimore police officer Kiana Holly. On that same night in December 2021, police say Knox murdered Justin Johnson. Alexa Ashwell was in court today and joins us live from outside the court. Alexa.
Yes, Kai, Officer Kiana Holly's family says they've waited 2 long years for justice. Now they feel one step closer with the selection of this jury, including 10 women and 2 men. Family of slain Baltimore police officer Kiana Holly walks out of the Baltimore City Circuit Courthouse after the jury was seated in accused killer Elliot Knox's murder trial.
It means that we are finally able to get justice, and then we know that we're going to be faithful and justice will be served. We're going to leave it over to God, let him do his work, and then we're going to wait until the end of the trial to see what happens.
The family leaning on their faith and the justice system. Knox will be tried in one joint trial for the separate murders of Officer Kiana Holly and Justin Johnson. Both were killed back on December 16th, 2021. Officer Holly as she sat in her patrol car during an overnight shift in an ambush-style attack. According to court documents, video footage and a license plate reader led police to Knox, who later admitted to being present for both murders. In these documents, Knox telling police his co-defendant, Tavon Shaw, fired shots into Officer Holly's patrol car in Curtis Bay, then 90 minutes later into Justin Johnson's car in the Yale Heights community. Knox telling investigators Shaw said Johnson owed him money, but no motive was provided in Officer Holly's murder. Shaw was also taken into custody, but refused to speak with investigators. Knox then leading police to the 2 weapons used in both murders. Today, Officer Holly's family on seeing Knox in person.
It's not really difficult for us because we've seen him in the news, in the paper, online. It's just having the opportunity to face him and have him pay for what he did. And we don't determine that. The jury determines that.
A jury of 10 women and 2 men who will determine the fate of a man accused of killing Johnson, a father, and Officer Holly, a mother of 4, who had joined the department just a couple of years before her murder in hopes of making her community a better place.
It's been challenging. It's been challenging, but we have each other. We are a praying family, and we're finding our way through it. We know that, God doesn't make mistakes, so everything happens for a reason. And we just leave everything up to him.
Knox's attorney and the assistant state's attorney both declined to comment and said they will not be commenting until this trial has concluded. More on the next steps as well as the latest on Shaw at 5. Reporting live in downtown Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Now, Fox 45 has been following the Kiana Holly case for years. For our full coverage on it and the latest on the trial, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Multiple lanes were shut down when a school bus and a car crashed into each other on Route 198 this morning in Anne Arundel County. The bus was taking 3 children to Maryland City Elementary School when the accident happened. No one on the bus was injured in the crash, but it's unclear if the other driver was injured.
David Trone is pushing back on polling that shows he's trailing in Maryland's Senate race. Why he says Larry Hogan's lead may not be as big as some say it is.
A closer look at policies that allow undocumented immigrants who commit crimes to remain in the country. I'm Christine Frizzell with new questions sparked by a horrific murder.
And we're looking at an unseasonably warm pattern over the next few days as temperatures reach the upper 60s. But we're also looking at the chance for rain. I'll break down the timing and impacts to the middle of your week coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Donald Trump is officially appealing the massive judgment against his businesses in New York. Trump's lawyers are asking the state's mid-level appeals court to overturn a judge's $454 million ruling against Trump for fraud. Trump's team hopes to discover the judge in the case committed any errors while overseeing the case. The judge found the former president lied about his wealth for a more favorable bottom line. Well, the longtime FBI informant accused of lying about President Biden will remain jailed. A judge has ordered Alexander Smirnoff to remain in custody as he awaits trial. Prosecutors say Smirnoff lied about the president and his son, Hunter, implicating them in a multi-million-dollar bribery scheme involving a Ukrainian energy company. Smirnoff reportedly told investigators that Russian intelligence officials were involved in passing the story. Both Donald Trump and President Joe Biden are headed to the southern border this Thursday. The visit also comes just days after the horrific murder of a young woman in Georgia. The top suspect now confirmed to be an illegal immigrant. Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzao.
Friday's arrest of Jose Antonio Ibarra was not his first time in police custody in this country. Detained first in September 2022 after entering the country illegally, then paroled and released. A year later, the Venezuelan national was arrested again, charged with child endangerment, plus a motor vehicle license violation in New York City. ICE has confirmed Ibarra was released before a detainer could be issued.
This goes back to why do local and county and state authorities need to be able to communicate with ICE? This is exactly why.
Students and members of the Athens community gathered to remember 22-year-old Laken Riley, a nursing student who an autopsy revealed died as a result of blunt force trauma to the head. Police asserting they have ample evidence to support their claim Ibarra was the perpetrator.
He did not know her at all. I think this was a crime of opportunity.
Georgia Governor Brian Kemp blaming failed policies by the White House that have led to millions of migrants coming to the United States and then being allowed to stay, even in the instances when they commit crimes.
We just have a nightmare in this country with mass migration, and then have people that are here illegally breaking our laws, and they're not telling anybody and reporting this to us.
Now questions are mounting about whether cities and states with sanctuary laws, which prevent local authorities from being able to communicate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement about undocumented immigrants in custody, are a threat to society.
We have got to start mixing compassion with people for other countries to compassion and concern for our own people.
President Biden has continued to press Congress to pass legislation to secure the border, but has hinted he may make changes on his own using executive action. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzao.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Should a person who entered the country illegally be deported if they commit a crime? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on the Pulse tab.
It's been a beautiful day and a lovely start to the work week. We're actually getting ready for a rise in temperatures over the next couple days, but we're also getting ready for the next weather maker and the chance for rain that all starts tomorrow. Currently still beautiful outside. More clouds have moved in, mostly cloudy over Baltimore. Temperatures around 58 with light winds out of the east. Around the state, we're seeing numbers in the 50s and the 60s, so overall much warmer than average for this time of year. We're nice and dry. We've enjoyed dry weather, but again, those clouds starting to move in. We're seeing a couple areas with green, a few showers staying to our south, but there could be a couple of isolated showers tonight. Most of the rain, though, is going to arrive tomorrow afternoon. So temperatures will drop to the 40s, very mild and closer to our average high temperature for this time of year. That's followed by highs reaching the mid 60s tomorrow. We're looking at the upper 60s on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, a dry drop in temperatures, but notice over the next 2 days, we have the chance for rain, and it's followed by that cool down and drier weather on Thursday. So on the future scan, notice that we stay mostly dry overnight. An isolated shower can't be ruled out, but by daybreak, we are back to dry weather, and it looks good for your morning commute. This changes, though, for your evening commute as we get ready for showers. These move in during the afternoon and will have rain off and on overnight, possibly impacting your commute on Wednesday morning. Wednesday is when you can expect heavy rain, though, and all of that starts to move in by the afternoon. So we're looking at the threat of heavy rain farther west where temperatures will be colder. There could even be some snow, but with our above average temperatures, expect that rain. It will taper by the night, and then for Thursday, we are looking at a drier and sunnier forecast. It is going to be much cooler, though, with temperatures only reaching the upper 40s. So we're talking rain chances increasing over the next couple days. We'll stay dry on Thursday, mostly dry on Friday, and then we have the next chance for showers on Saturday. We'll also have another chance for rain for the upcoming Monday. As we head into the night, our temperatures drop to 46 with partly cloudy skies. This is followed by a big warm up, 64 tomorrow, and keeping temperatures well above average for this time of year. The numbers continue to rise, 67 on Wednesday with rain into the afternoon. Then we're back to sunny and dry weather on Thursday, 48 for the last day of the month. As we head into March, we're talking temperatures just a hair above average, 51. Then we see that warming trend over the weekend. We're looking at the 60s by Sunday. Then we'll have the next chance for rain on Monday. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Recent polling shows Larry Hogan in the lead for Maryland's Senate, but one of his top competitors doesn't buy it. David Trone weighs in on what he thinks those numbers really mean. And fighting to give the children the right to learn. A state delegate joins Fox 45 to explain a bill he says will be key for getting kids out of tough situations. And a chance for some young athletes to compete in a sport they love. We are taking you inside the National Wheelchair Basketball Championships right here in Baltimore. It is an opportunity for kids in wheelchairs to compete in a sport they love. Fox 45 photojournalist Megan Quinn got to see them in action.
Today we are at the Bennett Blazers Kennedy Krieger home gym.
We're hosting the regional championship of the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. We have about 100 players all the way from Connecticut to Virginia. The main focus of our program is opportunity. Many children go through the early part of their life not even realizing that this opportunity exists.
I found it through Kennedy Krieger. I was going to the spina bifida clinic.
I saw it on the TV at Kennedy Krieger and I asked my mom if I could play it.
Adaptive sports, didn't know that was a thing.
We have kids who come in for the first time and get out of their everyday chair and get into a basketball chair or a sports chair, and it's a different experience from all of a sudden they can move and change direction, etc.
It was like an eye-opener. It was such an amazing experience.
Some of these kids have been in our program and the other programs around the country for 10 years or more.
I was 9 years old, sitting at home, like struggling to find my place in the world because a lot of kids, sports means everything to them.
This sport is very high level and very competitive and gives them that opportunity.
I never thought I'd be here. Never thought I'd be going to college for this.
And seeing them develop from being 5-year-olds to mature individuals that have highly developed skills.
Having the ability to hang out with teammates, it has been such a game changer with my mental health and everything. So we've been playing in this gym for 9 years, 10 years, and it'll be
most of your life.
Yeah, it'll be really sad saying goodbye to it, having our final home games here. I feel as if I've made friends that I'll have for years and years to come down the line, as sports just brings everybody super close together. You learn things about your teammates, you learn how to help your teammates, and it'll be sad to see them all go off to college, but I'm hoping 4 years, 5 years down the line, we'll all come back here for a nice reunion and see how everybody's going.
And thanks to Megan Quinn for that incredible story on these major athletes. Well, defending the right to learn, we're talking with an Annapolis lawmaker backing a bill he says will help set children up for success. A Democratic Senate candidate is brushing off polls that show him trailing Larry Hogan. Why David Trone says he's confident he'll be Maryland's next U.S. Senator.
Fox 45 News has continuing coverage on the 2024 legislative session. Some lawmakers are pushing for school choice to give kids stuck in failing schools or even dangerous schools a way out. Now, the Right to Learn Act aims to provide students in failing schools statewide a chance to transfer. The bill classifies a failing school as one that's been given 1 star for at least the 3 prior consecutive school years. That push comes as city schools continue to miss performance standards. State test results last year found 13 Baltimore City high schools had 0 students proficient in math. Well, tonight we're joined by Republican Delegate Mark Fisher, one of the lawmakers supporting that bill. Delegate, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Delegate, the bill specifies a failing school as one with 3 consecutive 1-star evaluations in a row. I just mentioned that. How did you decide that number 3 as the correct time frame to allow students to transfer out?
The idea was that we didn't want to play gotcha with a school that had a bad year. We wanted to make sure that there was a history of the school failing. And a 1-star school, to be clear, is a failed school. We have schools with 1 stars where no child has tested proficient in math, as an example. And in those particular situations, you ask yourself, what is the future for those children if they can't do simple math? And I think that's why this bill is so urgent.
Delegate Fisher, could you walk us through what would happen once a child does decide to transfer? Does the state place them in a new school it deems successful, or does the student, that family, their parents get to choose?
So the parents are notified that their child is in a failing school, and that the parents have an opportunity to take the education money and shop for the school that works best for their children. And the parents, by the way, can keep their child in the same school, and that is completely up to the parents. But they have to be notified that this is happening, and I think that that's an important option for the parents.
Yeah, that's really interesting because sometimes you don't always get that information. You have to seek it out. Do you think, Delegate, this bill could, though, lead to overcrowding in schools that are currently not struggling? Everybody wants to go to this really successful school.
Well, the bill allows them to go to any school of their choice. Obviously, they have to get into the school. That includes a charter school, public school, private school, and a parochial school. The bill also deals with unruly students as well. And that's an important part of this legislation. But it only is targeted to those 1-star schools. So once again, the parent is notified, and the children can go to any school of their choice. And the idea is to create an environment whereby we have a robust, competitive education system. And again, we're only focusing on those failed schools.
All right. Delegate Fisher, let's talk about this for a moment. Some opponents, and I'm sure you've heard some of it, obviously, in Annapolis, have said plans like this, they're not going to give schools enough time to improve, which is obviously what everybody would like to see, and let efforts like Kerwin get into place before something like this is passed. What's your response to that?
So we're in year 5 of Kerwin, and before Kerwin, we had Thornton.
Right.
And Maryland spends and has been spending for more than 20 years a record amount of money on public education. And we redistribute money from the wealthy suburbs to those areas where, the schools are having issues. And that is an incredibly important thing to consider. So after 3 years, we're really not even talking about just the 3 years of 1-star school. These same schools have had issues for a couple of decades. And so enough already. I mean, the only pathway for these students right now is incarceration or a life of limited opportunities.
And real quickly before we go, I just want to clarify one thing for parents who are listening to this at home. You said they could choose a private school, which sometimes can cost up to $30,000+. That is something they'd have to pay for, or is the state picking up the tab?
The state's picking up the tab. And moreover, the children who are the habitual, unruly, and violent and disruptive students will be given an opportunity to go to a military boarding school. And I can tell you, across the state of Maryland, the bill also does that as well. Across the state of Maryland, there are a small group of students in each school that are really creating and wreaking havoc in those schools. And this is not a requirement that the students go to a military boarding school. It's an opportunity that the administrators can offer to the parents, and the parents can then choose to take that opportunity or not.
All right, Delegate Mark Fisher, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight about this bill on the table. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, this week we expect to see some key hearings and votes on public safety legislation. Let's start with the juvenile crime bill in the House tomorrow. The full House is set to vote on a bill that would make big changes in the state's juvenile crime policy, the goal to hold youth offenders accountable. Now, if passed, it would allow kids as young as 10 to be charged with sex offenses, car thefts, gun possession, and animal abuse. It would also make changes to probation for children and expand resources for the youth monitoring unit that tracks young offenders with ankle monitors. The bill has both Democratic and Republican support. However, some lawmakers and prosecutors also calling for changes to the Juvenile Interrogation Protection Act.
Lawyers understand constitutional rights. Not all parents understand that, correct?
That's correct.
So why would we put a child in that jeopardy rather than allowing the law that we've currently passed to be put in place? Why would we do this?
It effectively, quite literally, prevents the questioning of child suspects who are children.
Lawmakers are also set to hold a hearing on a bill named after Baltimore Tech CEO Pavel Lepere, who was killed in her apartment last fall. Lepere's suspected killer was a convicted offender, but he was out of prison on good behavior credits. Now, the bill would end early release for people convicted of a sex offense. Her family and Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says this bill will save lives.
All of our extended families are victims. The employees of EcoMap Technologies, Pavel's friends and co-workers, and other members of the Baltimore tech community ecosystem are victims. The entire city of Baltimore was held hostage, and as a result is also a victim.
One example, one time is one time too many. We want to make sure that we put laws in place that will keep all the citizens protected.
Well, Fox 45 News will be in Annapolis covering the Pavel Lepere bill hearing and the juvenile justice bill hearing this week. Follow along on our reporting online at foxbaltimore.com.
People want to know how you're going to make their life a little bit better and how you're going to focus on big issues that are tearing our country apart.
Congressman and Senate candidate David Trone joining Fox 45 News to talk about his push to become Maryland's next U.S. Senator. The top candidates right now are Trone, fellow Democrat, and Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks, and a new entry into the race on the Republican side, former Governor Larry Hogan. A recent poll from Ragnar Research Partners shows former Governor Larry Hogan has a double-digit lead in the race for Senate. The poll has Hogan leading both Angela Alsobrooks and Congressman Trone in a hypothetical matchup. Former Governor Hogan leads Trone by 16 points and also Brooks by 23. Political analyst John Deedy says it's a reason for the Hogan campaign to be optimistic.
He's starting out in a really good place because of his high favorabilities while governor, and even after he has left the governorship, he's still seen as a popular leader. The Democratic field right now isn't clear. It could be either of the two candidates.
Well, this morning, Fox 45's Patrice Sanders pressed Trone on whether he's concerned with those poll numbers.
Breaking news today coming from Congressman David Trone, who is vying for Maryland's open Senate seat. He was first to announce on our morning show that he is calling for a clean campaign. It comes after former Governor Larry Hogan has joined the race on the Republican side. Polls show Hogan could give him a run for his money, even as Trone battles Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks for the Democratic nomination.
Announcement today is the grassroots organizations in Eastern Maryland and Western Maryland have come together and proposed a campaign pledge. And their thinking is Larry Hogan's coming, he looms, and let's us Democrats work together, talk about the issues, putting people over politics and not attack each other. So we think it's a fantastic idea. I know it's supported by Governor Moore, Senator Cardin, Congressman Rask and Rupersberger, et cetera. So we're hopeful that our opponent's going to agree and we can move forward with a clean campaign pledge. And that's what I know voters want.
Let's bring up former Governor Hogan. It seems that people are attracted to him because the polls show that in a head-to-head race against you, he is in the lead. What do you say to that, and how do you change that?
Yeah, that was a poll taken by the Republican Senatorial Committee. Basically, Mitch McConnell working hard to recruit Larry Hogan. We predicted Larry Hogan would be in this race. We predicted he'd line up the last day. He did exactly that. McConnell is recruiting Hogan. A vote for Hogan is really a vote for McConnell. And that poll grossly oversampled white voters, independent voters, and Republican voters. We've done 3 polls with Hogan. We're ahead in 2, and we're tied in 1.
He says as the race continues, he will focus on Baltimore and the surrounding area and point out the things that Hogan hasn't done, like getting the red line in Baltimore. But he still has to get through the primary to determine the Democratic candidate. That's just about 2.5 months away on May 14th. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Well, 2 mothers who blew the whistle, alerting the public that an admitted juvenile rapist was attending a Maryland public school, may soon be silenced by the court. For more than a month, Project Baltimore has been reporting on these 2 Maryland mothers, one from Harford County, the other from Baltimore County. Both feel Maryland's juvenile justice system failed them. But now Project Baltimore has learned the mother of the Harford County victim was placed under what is essentially a gag order earlier this month. Meanwhile, in Baltimore County, we have learned the public defender has also filed a similar motion. The orders could stop the mothers from being able to speak publicly about their cases. The Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press says the move is an assault on the freedom of press and the public's right to know.
The public's right to understand what unfolds in judicial proceedings is supposed to be a right that you have for good or ill, not just to narrate when things are going well, but also to highlight when they're going badly. And the degree of secrecy in place here seems pretty troubling to us from that perspective.
Tonight at 10, a look at the impact these mothers have already made by coming forward with their stories and what Clary says on the history of these types of court orders.
President Biden calls a meeting between Washington's most powerful lawmakers his strategy to get a funding plan passed and avoid a government shutdown.
The Supreme Court hears arguments in a pair of cases that could upend social media. I'm Atrel Nashar, and coming up, we talk directly with one of the plaintiffs.
And we're getting ready for the next weather maker and the chance for rain tomorrow and again on Wednesday. After that, you can expect cooler temperatures and dry weather. I'll let you know more on the timing of the rain coming up in my full forecast.
With the threat of a government shutdown around the corner, President Biden has summoned top lawmakers to a meeting this week. Those lawmakers include House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. They're set to meet tomorrow. The president plans to stress the urgent need to act. However, things don't look promising as Republicans argue whether the bill should include funding for Ukraine and what steps to take on securing the border.
This is not just about Ukraine. This is about freedom versus dictatorships. This is about truth versus propaganda.
You either secure the border or you get no money for the government.
Congressional Democrats and some Republicans have become frustrated with the GOP's stance on the border after a bipartisan bill failed in the Senate. The deal would have put $20 billion toward improving border security and won the support of the union representing border agents.
Builds more border wall. It adds 50,000 detention beds, so we in catch and release. It adds more deportation flights. It adds additional detection equipment at our border to pick up fentanyl. It adds sanctions on cartels and individuals that are trafficking fentanyl into our country. It adds more ICE agents, more Border Patrol agents, more asylum officers, more immigration judges. It changes the asylum law itself so that it makes it much harder for people to actually qualify for asylum coming into the country, and it speeds up the hearings.
Republican support for the bill fizzled after former President Trump argued it would hurt his campaign and would be considered a win for President Biden. Some Republicans against the deal also argue it isn't strong enough and refuse to compromise with Democrats. Well, the results are in for Friday's question of the day. We asked, what do you think the biggest threat to national security is? 7% said a terrorist attack, 2% said a military strike, 68% said border security, and 23% said cyber attacks. Well, the Supreme Court hearing oral arguments in a pair of cases that will determine how social media platforms are allowed to operate. Republican leaders in Texas and Florida defend new state laws that set limits on content moderation, which social media companies say violates free speech. Atra El-Nashar has the story.
The nation's highest court contemplating what free speech means in the digital age. In 2020 and 2021, when misinformation about vaccines and election integrity were a national focus, many Republicans accused platforms of censoring conservative views. Republican leaders in Texas and Florida passed laws to limit how social media companies control content.
Freedom of speech is under attack in Texas.
The laws have been on hold pending litigation brought by trade groups representing tech companies.
Our two associations brought these lawsuits to protect the First Amendment rights of websites when they're making editorial choices about what kind of content is appropriate for their communities.
Justices hearing arguments about how the laws would actually play out.
The consistency provision, which is really the heart of our law, just says to the platforms, apply your content moderation policies consistently.
Well, that's effectively saying Nazi propaganda and ISIS extremism, rantings online, to say nothing of predators and fraud. All of that has to be put on equal footing with decent American internet users.
Justices Sotomayor and Barrett raising potential unintended consequences of the laws. For example, Etsy requires sellers limit products to handmade goods, vintage, and craft supplies. Would these laws prevent Etsy from this practice upon which its brand is built? Even Florida says there's not a clear sense of which platforms would and would not be impacted.
That's part of the problem in this case, is that we don't have a sense of, the record has not been fully developed to answer that question, so we're kind of litigating in the dark here.
At the end of arguments, the justices appeared torn. They're also questioning whether social media sites are common carriers that transmit user content, or if they moderate content, are they more like editors? The court is expected to decide the fate of these state laws by June. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
It's been a beautiful day and still very nice outside. Good if you plan on maybe eating outside. And today really the best day to do that because it will be a little bit cooler by the end of the week. And tomorrow we have rain. 58 currently and mostly cloudy over Baltimore. We're seeing temperatures in the 50s and 60s around Maryland. Typically around this time of year, our average high temperatures in the upper 40s. So across the state, it has been much warmer. We've spent the day with nice and dry weather. You can see a few showers to our south. There is the chance for an isolated shower tonight. Otherwise, the afternoon is when you can get ready for that next chance for rain across much of the state. First, we'll drop to the 40s, a very mild start to the day tomorrow. We wake up to dry weather, but by the afternoon, we'll have rain. High temperatures reach 64, 67 with more rain on Wednesday, and then we start to dry out on Thursday. However, temperatures will be much lower. We're only talking the upper 40s. On the future scan, notice that tonight there's the chance for an isolated shower. Otherwise, we stay mostly dry and mostly cloudy, with temperatures dropping to the 40s. We start tomorrow after sunrise with dry weather. Then the afternoon brings the chance for showers. This could mean a rainy commute on your evening home. But as we continue overnight, that rain continues and lasts into Wednesday morning. We could be talking another rainy commute. As we head into the second half of the day, though, we are looking at a better chance for rain, which could be heavy at times. Snow is possible for western Maryland, but this does all begin to taper as we head into the night. Thursday looks much drier. We'll have more sunshine. However, temperatures will be much cooler behind that next system. So we're looking at rain chances increasing over the next couple days. Then we'll stay dry and mostly dry on Thursday and Friday. We have the chance for showers on Saturday and once again for the upcoming Monday. So up and out rain chances as we finish the month and head into March. 46 for the low temperature tonight with partly to mostly cloudy skies. Then tomorrow, high temperatures reach 64. We start with dry weather until the showers arrive during the afternoon. 67 for the high with rain on Wednesday, then 48 on Thursday with plenty of sunshine. Temperatures after that will start to warm up as we head into March. 51 for the high on Friday, then we're looking at the upper 50s on Saturday, 60s on Sunday, and we stay in the 60s with rain on Monday. Back to you.
All right, Jasmine, thank you. We like those numbers, though. And take a look at this. We're finally getting some of those first signs of spring propping up from the warm weather right now. These are crocuses. They're always the first thing to bloom around this area in front of our assistant news director's house this morning. Andrea, thank you very much for those crocuses, and I'd like one of them, please. Hey, we'd like to see the warmer weather in your neighborhood as the season starts to change. Scan that QR code on your screen right there and send us your pictures and videos, or head to foxbaltimore.com/chime in. Coming up at 5 o'clock, quality of life crime in Baltimore and the Maryland area continues to push some residents out of the city. Fox 45 News takes your concerns to Mayor Scott. Accusations Israel is committing human rights violations. The new debate over whether the military is stopping aid from getting to civilians in Gaza. Israel is accused of blocking aid to Palestinians in Gaza, violating a United Nations court order issued last month. The order from the International Court of Justice requires Israel to take all steps necessary to protect against the killing of Palestinian civilians. Human Rights Watch claims there has been a 30% drop in the daily number of aid trucks entering Gaza. Israel denies blocking aid. Israel's military says it has a plan for its ground offensive into Rafah, where well over 1 million Palestinians are currently sheltering. That includes delivering humanitarian aid safely in a way that would prevent looting. No other details have been offered. Israeli officials have repeatedly have to go through with the attacks unless hostages are returned before the start of Ramadan. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, porch pirates caught red-handed. We take a closer look at why police didn't act. Plus, one of the suspects accused of killing Baltimore City Police Officer Kiana Holley is in court today. Our team is at the trial, bringing you the very latest.
Porch pirates go on a crime spree near Patterson Park. Why the witness says the police didn't try to stop the thieves.
As more quality of life crimes impact residents, Fox 45 News looks into what leaders are doing to deter it. We press Mayor Brandon Scott about it.
Plus, the race for city council president heating up. The new polling numbers showing a possible front runner.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
It's just having the opportunity to face him and have him pay for what he did. And we don't determine that. The jury determines that.
Today, a jury is now seated in the murder trial for Officer Kiana Holley. Officer Kiana Holley, who was killed in an ambush killing. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. One of the suspects, his last name is Knox, is one of two men charged with murdering Baltimore police officer Kiana Holley and then Justin Johnson back in December of 2021.
Alexa Ashwell was in court today and joins us live from outside the court. Alexa?
Yes, Kai, Mary. Officer Kiana Holley's family tells me they've waited 2 long years for justice. Today, they feel one step closer with the selection of this jury, the jury including 10 women and 2 men. Our cameras were rolling as Officer Kiana Holley's family stepped out of the Baltimore City Circuit Courthouse today. Holly's sister, her mother, one of her daughters, and other relatives, alongside Assistant State's Attorney Kirk Bjorkland, who is prosecuting this case. Elliot Knox was separately charged with the murders of Officer Holly and Justin Johnson, but will be tried in one joint trial. Holly's family on what today means to them.
It means that we are finally able to get justice, and then we know that we're going to be faithful and justice will be served. We're going to leave it over to God, let him do his work, and then we're going to wait until the end of the trial to see what happens.
Now, a quick recap on this case. According to police, back on December 16th, 2021, Knox and his co-defendant Tavon Shaw shot and killed Officer Holly as she sat in her patrol car in an ambush-style attack in Curtis Bay. Then 90 minutes later, shot and killed Justin Johnson as he sat in his car in Yale Heights. According to court documents, video footage and a license plate reader led police to Knox, who later admitted to being there for the murders, but said it was Shaw who pulled the trigger both times. Investigators say Knox also led police to both murder weapons. Knox's attorney and the assistant state's attorney prosecuting this case both declined to comment and say they will not be commenting until this trial concludes.
Alexa, has a motive for these murders come out, though?
Mary, that's a question that we have been asking since December 16th, 2021. The motives in both of these killings. Baltimore police have never revealed a motive or a believed motive in Officer Holly's murder. According to court documents, Knox told investigators that just before the shooting of Johnson, that Shaw said that he owed him some money. But again, no motive not yet revealed in Officer Holly's murder. Opening statements are set to begin tomorrow morning, and we, of course, will be in the courtroom. Reporting live in downtown Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
It's unnecessarily unsafe now.
I'm getting up in my wonder years. I want to enjoy them in a crime-free area.
We just felt like we just weren't safe anymore, and like monetarily, we couldn't afford to keep having these losses.
Baltimore City residents are speaking out on quality of life crimes that continue to plague the city. Many say these crimes are forcing them to pack up and leave.
And tonight, another frustrated voice joining those who are fed up after he says he witnessed porch pirates go on a crime spree near Patterson Park with no action from police.
The growing concern comes as Mayor Brandon Scott shifts blame to other broken parts of the criminal justice system.
And we have team coverage tonight, starting with Mackenzie Frost. Today, she questioned the mayor on what he's doing to address the rising quality of life crimes. Mackenzie.
Mayor Brandon Scott says he's been talking about this before everyone else started to pay attention. But the reality is no one seems to be immune from some of these quality of life crimes in Baltimore. The crime coming over the police radio.
Stealing a bike from his garage.
Former Baltimore City leader and now mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon, one of the latest victims in the city's crime trend.
My son called me on the phone and said somebody broke through the door of the garage. He saw them leaving with the bike.
And she's not alone. Property and quality of life crimes impacting Baltimoreans across the city.
People don't feel safe, and it's very frustrating.
Fox 45 News digging into the latest data from Baltimore police. And the numbers speak for themselves. Homicides and non-fatal shootings down in Baltimore, but crime impacting communities' sense of safety, like car thefts and robberies, taking off. From January 1st through February 17th, the most up-to-date info from BPD shows 1,071 cars stolen in this city. That's an 82% increase compared to the same time period in 2023. And 2023 saw unprecedented numbers of stolen vehicles. Robberies up 14% this year compared to last. 418 incidents have been reported to police this year. Monday, while rolling out details for Baltimore's Book Festival.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday.
We questioned Mayor Brandon Scott on what he's doing to curb these quality of life crimes. So are you going to change the way that you address quality of life crimes, given this continues to be a major problem for people?
We're going to continue to focus on on that. We, as an administration, here, as the police department in Baltimore City, have always been focused on quality of life crimes.
Mayor Scott touting his work to address other areas of the criminal justice system that he sees as part of the problem. But we pressed him again on what more he could be doing to search for solutions to a problem that he even says could impact anyone.
Do you think that it's your responsibility, though, as the mayor of the major city in the state, to be more vocal about what is and is not working at the state level?
I don't think I can be more vocal. Before anybody was paying attention to things like home monitoring, I was saying it.
While the mayor has talked about home monitoring concerns and bringing more communication to all agencies about when criminals are released, he has not been publicly in front of the latest push for change in Annapolis, especially when it comes to juvenile crime-related issues.
And what I'd rather have happen is that if they're going to touch the juvenile justice system, that then there are resources and interventions to make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Councilwoman Odette Ramos says working with BPD to continue patrols is key.
Are you satisfied with where things are in terms of the number of quality of life, property crimes in the city?
Well, we shouldn't rest on our laurels. You know, it definitely has increased.
But is not giving the current administration a positive review of the current quality of life crime crisis. Meanwhile, this crime map shows how widespread these property crimes are. Those dots only represent crimes from the last 7 days. Zooming into that area near Patterson Park, one of Baltimore's gems.
I'll illegally park on the smaller streets before I'll park on Patterson or Eastern.
You can see the impact of these quality of life crimes. Last week alone, Fox 45 News finding 62 piles of shattered glass dotting the park's perimeter.
It's a bad look for the city. It makes it look disgusting.
But Mayor Scott continues to tell his constituents the problems stem from other broken parts of the criminal justice system.
These types of quality of life crimes are quickly becoming a major topic in the campaign for mayor. And notably, Councilwoman Odette Ramos was with the mayor today as she was announcing the book festival coming to her district later this fall, but she has yet to make an endorsement in the mayoral primary. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
If you have a stolen car story or know somebody who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Scan that QR code right there on your screen. Tell us what happened or send an email to news@foxbaltimore.com.
And it's not just car thefts. Residents living near Patterson Park are reporting a surge of stolen packages. One neighbor claims to have caught a pair of thieves red-handed. But as Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, the response from police wasn't exactly what he was expecting, was it, Rebecca?
No, it was not, Kai. And while it makes sense that violent crimes such as homicides and shootings, those take priority for police as lower level crimes, which affect more people more often, continue to surge. Some residents tell me they're still struggling to feel safe in the city. Over the weekend, Larry Hounds says that he witnessed two men sorting through about a dozen stolen packages outside of his home along Patterson Avenue. About 20 to 30 minutes after reporting the incident to BPD, Larry claims an officer finally arrived. At that time, Larry says the alleged suspects were still in sight, but he says that the officer refused to question them, despite Larry taking a photo of the alleged suspects in action and empty packages still littering the ground.
He says, "How do you know the packages were stolen?" I said, "Amazon packages?" And I said, "There they go, they're right there." So this morning, I called Internal Affairs to find out, what's going on here. Internal Affairs told me, unless the police see them steal the item, or unless the officer witnesses the crime, there's nothing they can do. And I'm like, what?
Other area residents have been raising similar concerns over other car crimes, many claiming unless a crime was clearly caught on camera, police will not respond in person to file a report or investigate. According to former Deputy Commissioner Jason Johnson, an inadequate response from BPD is likely the result of inadequate staffing. Currently, the department is down more than 500 officers.
Fortunately, right now, the police department, they just simply don't have the resources necessary to commit time and effort to, property crimes, quality of life crimes.
Now, we also reached out to BPD today asking for a response to Larry's claims that an officer didn't properly investigate his crime. I also asked them what their protocols are for car thefts and when cars are broken into. But as of news time tonight, I have not heard back. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
All right, Rebecca, thank you. And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust the Scott administration to fight quality of life crimes? Make your voice heard by going to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
And turning now to your session 2024 coverage, it's going to be another big week in Annapolis as lawmakers hold hearings on two key bills. One of the bills will eliminate early release for good behavior for first-degree sex offenders. The other bill deals with the juvenile justice reform system. Governor Wes Moore says he's in full support of the plans, which includes extending probation for young offenders.
I think we have to increase the probationary period. You have to have a probationary period that's long enough for the young person to actually receive the supports.
And the bill has three pillars, which include extending probation for young offenders, expanding certain criminal charges to children as young as 10, and reform the intake process within the Department of Juvenile Services.
Now, the second hearing this week is for a bill named after Baltimore Tech CEO Paula LePere. LePere was killed in her apartment last fall in Baltimore. Her suspected killer was a convicted sex offender, according to police, but he was out of prison on good behavior, or what's known as diminution credits. That bill would end the early release for people convicted of a sex offense.
All of our extended families are victims. The employees of EcoMap Technologies, Pava's friends and coworkers, and other members of the Baltimore tech community ecosystem are victims. The entire city of Baltimore was held hostage, and as a result is also a victim.
One example, one time is one time too many. We want to make sure that we put laws in place that will keep all the citizens protected.
Meantime, Fox 45 News will be in Annapolis covering the Paula LePere bill hearing and the juvenile justice bill hearing this week. You can follow our reporting online at foxbaltimore.com. Coming up after our break, the crisis at the border is on the minds of voters. The latest poll showing who Americans blame for the border chaos.
Plus, a looming government shutdown is once again a top issue on Capitol Hill, the deadline facing Congress.
And we are getting ready for the next chance for rain following a beautiful start to the work week. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at the timing of the rain and how it could impact your Tuesday commute.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
President Biden will be heading to the southern border this week. Biden will travel to Brownsville, Texas on Thursday to meet with U.S. Border Patrol agents, law enforcement, and local leaders. The White House is pressuring Republicans to pass the Senate bipartisan border security deal. It stalled behind an effort from former President Trump. While Biden has received poor polling numbers in regard to illegal immigration, the White House sees the GOP's about face on the bill as a winning issue. Now, the death of the border deal was a big blow to bipartisan negotiators who argue it would improve the situation immediately. Republican Senator James Lankford hammered out the details for months. Here's what he told us it would do.
It builds more border wall. It adds 50,000 detention beds, so we in catch and release. It adds more deportation flights. It adds additional detection equipment at our border to pick up fentanyl. It adds sanctions on cartels and individuals that are trafficking fentanyl into our country. It adds more ICE agents, more Border Patrol agents, more asylum officers, more immigration judges. It changes the asylum law itself so that it makes it much harder for people to actually qualify for asylum coming into the country, and it speeds up the hearings.
Republican support for the deal fizzled after Trump argued it would hurt his presidential campaign. Republicans against the deal argue it isn't strong enough. Its passage was also contingent on providing more aid for Ukraine and Israel. Lawmakers are looking for alternate paths forward. Well, some new polling from Monmouth University shows concern about illegal immigration is up. More than 8 in 10 Americans see the issues as very serious or somewhat serious. That's a jump from when Monmouth first polled on the issue back in 2019. More Americans oppose the immigration bill than favor it, although a large number say they have no opinion on the matter. More blame congressional Republicans and Democrats for blocking the bill. Well, that brings us to our national question of the day. Should a person who entered the country illegally be deported if they commit a crime? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab. The Senate could take up the impeachment charges against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas this week. House managers will first read the charges on the Senate floor. Senators will then be sworn in as jurors. Mayorkas will be summoned to answer to charges. Rules allow the Senate to then decide how to proceed. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is expected to dismiss the trial if he has the votes. Republicans say Mayorkas refused to enforce immigration laws. He and Democrats say it's a politicized policy dispute. Look at that sunshine. Taking a live look over Camden Yards tonight. We are just 31 days away from opening day. The O's will be hosting the LA Angels on March 28th. First pitch 3:05. But right now, the Orioles are well into spring training. So far, they haven't taken victory over the Red Sox or the Pirates, but we still are hopeful. It has been a very spring-like baseball day here in Baltimore, and it looks like that's going to continue throughout the week. Let's bring in meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with more on this. Jasmine, we do have some rain in there, though.
Yeah, Mary, we have some rain on the way, and that's going to start tomorrow, but still, we're talking spring-like, just beautiful temperatures as the month of February comes to an end. 58 currently and mostly cloudy over Baltimore with light winds out of the east. Around the state, temperatures are in the 50s and the 60s. And for all of us, we've been enjoying temperatures over 10 degrees above average. We've spent the day with nice and dry weather, but you can see a few showers to our south. There is the potential for an isolated shower overnight. Otherwise, we'll stay mostly dry as temperatures fall to the 40s. We'll start the morning with mild weather. Then by the afternoon, high temperatures continue to rise. We're looking at 64 along with the next chance for rain. We'll have more rain on Wednesday, but the temperatures continue to rise, 67. It's after that when the temperatures fall and we start to dry out. We'll be closer to average only in the upper 40s on Thursday. So just to break down the timing of the rain, we have the chance for an isolated shower tonight. Otherwise, expect mostly cloudy skies. We're looking at a dry start after sunrise. You should have a quiet commute to work. Now, as we head into the afternoon, the showers start to move into our region. They'll continue off and on, which could mean rain during your evening commute and also rain during your morning commute on Wednesday. We have the chance for heavy rain during the second half of Wednesday, all as our next weather system continues to drive across the region. So you want to make sure that if you do have a commute Wednesday evening, that you're driving safely and keeping watch on the forecast. The rain will taper as we head into the night, and we'll start the day with dry weather on Thursday. We'll have more sunshine, but it will be a little bit breezy at times. And of course, it will be much cooler, feeling more like winter. We'll have the chance for scattered showers starting tomorrow afternoon. The day won't be a washout. And then we have the chance for numerous showers across the state on Wednesday. We'll stay dry on Thursday and mostly dry on Friday, but we have the chance for showers overnight and into Saturday. We'll stay dry on Sunday, and then another chance for rain on Monday as we start the following work week. 46 for the low temperature tonight with partly to mostly cloudy skies. Then tomorrow, clouds linger. As we head into the afternoon, we'll have the chance for showers, 64 for the high temperature. After that, you can expect the warm up to continue. 67 on Wednesday with more rain on the way. 48, much cooler and breezy at times on Thursday, 51 on Friday, then 59 with showers on Saturday. After that, we're looking at the 60s on Sunday and Monday. We'll have the next chance for rain on Monday. Mary?
Jasmine, thank you. Still ahead, new polling is showing a possible front runner in the race for city council president. We speak to a political analyst on what the new numbers could mean going forward.
I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington. If Congress takes no action, the government will partially shut down by Friday night. Coming up, how close are lawmakers to a solution?
Well, taking a look at our nation's capital here right now, 20% of the government will shut down at midnight on Friday if Congress doesn't take any action regarding spending. It is the fourth time since September lawmakers have been up against this type of deadline. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the latest on the debate.
Lawmakers returning to Capitol Hill this week have their work cut
cut out for them, with yet another federal shutdown looming and no signs of a solution.
And we need to be thinking about the $34 trillion in debt that we are at right now. So we have to be physically responsible.
The task growing increasingly difficult after congressional leaders failed to reach a deal this past weekend. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer pointing fingers at House Republicans in a letter to Democratic colleagues. House Speaker Mike Johnson firing back, calling Schumer's letter counterproductive rhetoric, adding Republicans are working in good faith to reach an agreement. Johnson also facing intense pressure from the hardline conservative House Freedom Caucus to secure policy wins in exchange for their support.
My position to my colleagues on Capitol Hill is clear. You either secure the border or you get no money for the government.
Former Speaker Kevin McCarthy lost his gavel in a similar situation last fall.
Well, the government shutdown's not ideal, but it's not the worst thing. It would be worse to exacerbate the problem, to further increase our debt and our spending, to continue to fund a government that's facilitating the border invasion.
Democratic Senator Mark Warner pointing out this isn't a game. Federal workers will miss paychecks, adding House Republicans need to stop gambling with hardworking Americans' livelihoods. President Biden now stepping in, calling the congressional leaders of both parties to the White House for a meeting Tuesday.
Senators came back on Monday, but the House doesn't return until Wednesday, leaving only 3 days for lawmakers to find a solution to avoid a partial government shutdown by Friday night. Congress has until March 8th to fund the rest of the government. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Coming up after the break, a Baltimore mayoral candidate sounding the alarm over how COVID relief funds have been spent. Fox 45 News taking a closer look at where those funds are going. Plus, a bill that could provide students in failing schools a chance to succeed, but not everybody's on board with the idea. We explain why. And now you can watch Fox 45 News for free anytime on Amazon Fire TV or Samsung TV Plus. The race for Baltimore City Council president is heating up as a new poll shows which candidate could be a possible front-runner.
The poll is out from Global Strategy Group and shows City Councilman Zeke Cohen has a 9-point lead over incumbent City Council President Nick Mosby.
Political analyst John Deedy joining us live tonight to weigh in on these numbers. John, thanks for joining us. We are going to begin with your reaction to the poll numbers. It's not a huge lead, right?
It's not a huge lead, but this is the two figures I thought was the most interesting. Shannon Sneed has run for lieutenant governor, ran for city council president 4 years ago, and 64% of the people said they don't know who she is. The other thing that I found more humorous is 18% said they didn't know who Nick Mosby is. Now, either you're under a rock or you're lying, because that just seems improbable.
John, how big of a role do you think the federal trial of Mr. Mosby's ex-wife, former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby, is having on the race?
I think that's hurting Nick Mosby in some ways. I mean, 7 months ago, a Gonzalez poll had him at about 23% favorable. This time it's 25, all within the margin of error. And I think we're beginning to see where he's kind of close to a ceiling for himself. And the situation regarding Shannon Sneed's numbers, basically 20% favorable. Right now, this really is a race where Zeke Cohen is in the driver's seat as far as everything.
And we know Nick took the stand in his ex-wife's federal trial and admitted to lying to the media about his tax liens on his property. I think a lot of people are worried what kind of manager he is of his household and how that impacts managing some of the finances for this city. What do you think?
I think definitely voters are looking at that, especially when a lot of the stuff that came out negative about Nick Mosby came out after the first primary election, where a lot of people said if they had known then what they know now, they might not have voted for him regarding the tax situation and everything. Also, Marilyn Mosby always had higher favorabilities than Nick Mosby did. And when you think about that, I think that's something that's going to hurt him too, because I think a lot of supporters of Marilyn Mosby are going to look at Nick and said, he did her wrong. And they're going to blame him more for her troubles than herself. So I think this is going to be a huge hurdle for Nick Mosby to really clear. And I think this is where Zeke Cohen really has a clear advantage in this race.
All right, we'll see what happens the next couple of months as we get close to the primary day in May. John Deedy, thanks so much for joining us with your insight. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
In the race for Maryland's open Senate seat, Congressman David Trone is calling for a, quote, clean campaign. It comes after former Governor Larry Hogan was joined in the race on the Republican side. A new polling shows Hogan could give some strong competition, even as Trone battles Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks, the other Democratic person in the race. Today on Fox 45 Morning News, Trone joined us live to weigh in on the polling.
Let's bring up former Governor Hogan. It seems that people are attracted to him because the polls show that in a head-to-head race against you, he is in the lead. What do you say to that, and how do you change that?
Yeah, that was a poll taken by the Republican Senatorial Committee. Basically, Mitch McConnell working hard to recruit Larry Hogan. We predicted Larry Hogan would be in this race. We predicted he'd line up the last day. He did exactly that. McConnell is recruiting Hogan. A vote for Hogan is really a vote for McConnell. And that poll grossly oversampled white voters, independent voters, and Republican voters. We've done 3 polls with Hogan. We're ahead in 2, and we're tied in 1.
Well, Trone says he will continue to focus on Baltimore and the surrounding area. The primary to determine the Democratic candidate is just over 2 months away, which is May 14th.
In Annapolis, lawmakers are pushing for school choice, giving kids stuck in failing or even dangerous schools a way out. This as we continue to report on failing and unsafe schools in Baltimore City. But as Fox 45's Maxine Stryker reports, not everybody is on board.
House Bill 1027.
The Right to Learn Act aims to provide students in failing schools statewide a chance to succeed.
If your child isn't learning and they're in public school, then what are your options? If your child is unsafe while in school, then what are parents to do?
Delegate Mark Fisher of Calvert County says House Bill 1027 would give students attending a failing school the opportunity to attend an alternative school, whether it be private or parochial. The bill classifying a failing school as one that's been given 1 star for at least the prior 3 consecutive school years. As for violent or disruptive students, they'd be given the option to attend a military boarding school, and the school system could foot the bill.
The governor credits this intervention with saving his life.
Maryland's own Governor Wes Moore attended Valley Forge Military Academy. His mother enrolled him after she says he began to hang out with the wrong crowd. Fisher says there seems to be a systemic problem with school discipline and juvenile crime, pointing to 2 stories Fox 45 broke involving dangerous kids.
Last year, an 11-year-old was picked up by police in connection with more than a dozen carjackings. Recently, a 15-year-old rapist was placed in Patterson High School in Baltimore. Stories of out-of-control children are becoming all too common.
A Project Baltimore investigation recently uncovered a 15-year-old convicted rapist was allowed to attend a Baltimore City high school, and the public was not alerted because he's a juvenile. And it's not just potential danger lurking in classrooms in Baltimore City. Some city schools are also failing to live up to their potential when it comes to student performance. State test results last year found 13 Baltimore City high schools had 0 students test proficient in math. There's even a lawsuit against Baltimore City schools alleging misuse of tax dollars as students continue to struggle in the classroom. However, there is concern this bill could put kids in a bucket who could potentially have a disability.
I do want to caution the committee with amendments that we do not participate in essentially targeting kids perceived as having a bad behavior.
And Raya Gupta, a policy researcher with Strong Schools Maryland, is urging lawmakers to give schools more time to improve under the Kerwin plan.
This bill, if passed, will use public dollars to cause harm on public schools. This bill labels schools as quote unquote failing schools in a manner that is not recommended or utilized by MSDE. On top of that, it retaliates against these struggling schools.
Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
It is important to note David Smith, the executive chairman of our parent company, Sinclair Broadcast Group, is financially connected to the ongoing lawsuit against the Baltimore City public school system.
It is the only way for us to be confident that this $641 million once-in-a-generation gift hasn't been completely frittered away.
Frustration is brewing over Baltimore City's COVID-19 relief fund and what it's being spent on. Fox 45's Megan Gillen takes a closer look at the funds and speaks to a taxpayer watchdog on the impact.
Baltimore mayoral candidate Thuroo Vignarajah now demanding an audit of the $641 million that Baltimore City received in federal COVID relief funding. Taxpayer watchdog David Williams weighing in on the city's problems with spending those funds. If an audit were to happen, how would it play out?
It's easy. You get a CPA, you make sure it's independent, right? It can't be connected to the Board of Estimates. It can't be connected to the mayor because there's been a lot of questions about how they've been spending money. And basically, you look for documentation on everything that's happened the past 2 years, the money that's been spent.
You're saying 30% has been spent, but David, we are hearing the city has said all of the money has been committed to various projects. In that case, is it too late to have an audit?
Absolutely not. So when they say committed, they're saying $50 million to Monzi, right? Well, Monzi hasn't gotten that $50 million yet. They've only gotten a small fraction of that. It's what they're going to get in the future and before 2026, because that's when they have to spend it by.
Williams went on to raise concerns about how this one-time cash infusion could inflate city organizations. He fears that Baltimore won't be able to handle the costs of these programs after the federal funding runs out. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Baltimore, the book festival is coming back.
A major announcement today from Mayor Scott. The Baltimore Book Festival is coming back to Charm City. The last time it was held was in 2019 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it will be making its big comeback just in time for its 25th anniversary.